First Contact and Ultimatum. The massive vessel appeared in Earth's orbit with no warning. One moment, satellite imagery showed clear skies. The next, a structure that dwarfed the International Space Station hung above the planet like a metallic moon. Global communications faltered momentarily, then stabilized, clearly allowed to do so by whoever controlled the ship. Admiral Helena Chen stared at the holographic projection floating above the emergency United Nations Security Council table. Representatives from every major nation sat in stunned silence as the vessel's dimensions were calculated in real time. 17 kilometers in length, muttered the British representative. Good Lord. All military responses have been mobilized, Chen reported, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. But I need to be clear, if their technology can transport something of that mass instantaneously to Earth orbit, our defensive capabilities are limited. The Secretary General nodded grimly. What about communication? As if in response, every digital display on Earth, from smartphones to stadium screens, flickered simultaneously. The face that appeared wasn't what most expected from science fiction. The being had 4 eyes arranged vertically on a smooth grayish face. Gill-like structures pulsed at the sides of its neck, and when it spoke, multiple harmonic tones underlaid its words, which were somehow perfectly translated. People of Earth, I am Overseer Thrixval of the Sirathian hegemony, governing power of this galactic sector. Your civilization has been monitored since you began transmitting electromagnetic signals into space. Admiral Chen's aide whispered, radio and television broadcasts. Yes, your primitive communications have been most revealing. The alien's upper eyes narrowed slightly. The hegemony has determined that your species requires integration into the galactic community. This is not a request. Gasps echoed through the Security Council chamber. Your world possesses resources valuable to the hegemony. Your genetic diversity and biological adaptability is noteworthy. In exchange for harvesting rights to 30% of your planetary resources and access to your biosphere for sampling, the hegemony offers protection from other galactic threats and limited access to technologies that will not threaten hegemony supremacy. President Kamara of the African Union leaned forward. This is extortion. This is reality, the Russian president countered. We're clearly outmatched. The alien continued, unaware of the human debate. As a demonstration of hegemony power and to emphasize the seriousness of this arrangement, we will now remove a small uninhabited portion of your planet. Satellite feeds showed a smaller craft detaching from the mothership. It positioned itself over the Pacific Ocean, far from any landmass. A beam of intense blue light shot downward. When it dissipated, a perfect circular section of ocean approximately 5 kilometers in diameter had been removed, not vaporized, removed, leaving a perfect cylindrical hole that immediately began filling with surrounding seawater, creating a massive whirlpool. This technology can be applied to any portion of your world, the alien stated flatly. You have 72 of your hours to agree to our terms. Compliance is expected. The transmission ended. In the stunned silence that followed, the Chinese premier was the first to speak. We cannot possibly fight such technology. We might not have to, Admiral Chen said quietly, drawing all eyes. Did anyone else notice something strange about that demonstration? The U.S. president frowned. Besides the fact that they scooped out part of our ocean like it was ice cream. Yes, Chen nodded. They chose an uninhabited area. They gave us time to respond. They're offering terms rather than simply taking what they want. These aren't the actions of an invincible force. Dr. Elias Wright, head of the newly formed Xenobiology Division, cleared his throat. Admiral Chen is right. There's something else to consider. They mentioned our electromagnetic signals, as if they've been studying us through our broadcasts. That suggests they might have some fundamental misconceptions about human nature. What do you mean? Asked the Secretary General. Wright's eyes gleamed. They've been watching our television and radio, our entertainment and news. if that's their primary window into humanity. A slow smile spread across Admiral Chen's face. Then they might have a rather distorted view of who we are and what we're capable of. Exactly. Wright nodded. They see our fictional conflicts, our dramatized weaknesses, our entertainment violence, and our news focusing on disasters and problems. What they don't see is our resilience, our capacity for innovation under pressure. So what do you suggest? The Secretary General asked. Chen straightened. We appear to comply, at first. But meanwhile, we learn everything we can about them. Their biology, technology, social structure, weaknesses. We need time, and appearing to surrender buys us that time. A dangerous gamble, the Russian president mused, but perhaps our only option. The Security Council voted unanimously. Operation Trojan Horse would commence immediately. When Overseer Thrix Val received Earth's message of compliance, the aliens' multiple eyes blinked in rapid succession, the Sarathian equivalent of a smug smile. These humans were just as the Hegemony's Cultural Analysis Division had predicted, quick to bow before superior force. The massive ship deployed transport vessels to begin preliminary resource assessment. The first Sarathian teams landed on Earth 3 days later in a show of overwhelming technological superiority, their shuttles bypassing all attempts at quarantine protocols. Your cooperation is appreciated, Thrix Val announced during the formal reception at the United Nations. The Hegemony rarely encounters such wisdom in newly discovered species. Admiral Chen, now serving as Earth's appointed liaison, offered the practiced, humble smile they had rehearsed. We recognize the reality of our situation, Overseer. Humanity wishes only to find its proper place in the galactic community. A suitable attitude, the alien replied. Your integration will proceed smoothly if maintained. What the Overseer didn't notice was the subtle hand signal Chen gave to Dr. Wright, who stood nearby with scanning equipment disguised as ceremonial items. The signal meant one thing. They had detected exactly what Wright had hypothesized, a vulnerability that might give humanity a fighting chance. As the Sarathian delegation left the chambers to begin their assessment of Earth's resources, Shen murmured to Wright, "Tell me we have something." The scientist's eyes gleamed. Their communication technology, their ship systems, even their biological implants, they all operate on quantum field principles that are fundamentally different from what we expected. And they have a critical weakness, which is, they've evolved in environments with stable quantum fields. They've never needed to account for chaotic field disruptions because they've never encountered them. Chen's brow furrowed. And this helps us how? Because, Admiral, Wright said with a growing smile, creating chaotic quantum field disruptions happens to be something humans have been accidentally doing since we split the atom. We just never had a reason to weaponize it. Until now, Chen finished. Until now. As the Sarathian ships settled into Earth orbit and began deploying their extraction equipment, humanity started planning what would become known in later galactic history as the most spectacular underdog victory ever witnessed by sentient beings. What the Hegemony didn't realize was that they had made a critical error in their cultural analysis. They had mistaken human fiction for human limitation. The silent response. General Zhao Wei studied the holographic display of Sarathian mining operations spreading across Earth's surface. In just 2 weeks, the aliens had established 37 extraction sites on 6 continents, each protected by energy fields that repelled all conventional weapons. The general's face remained impassive, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped the edge of the command table. "Status report," he demanded. Dr. Anaya Patel, head of the Quantum Research Division, stepped forward. Her eyes were rimmed with exhaustion, but there was an unmistakable excitement in her voice. "We've completed analysis of their quantum communication network. It's elegant and vulnerable. The Sarathians evolved in a region of space with exceptionally stable quantum fields. Their technology reflects this. They've never needed to account for quantum chaos in their systems." Admiral Chen, who had joined the War Council after another degrading meeting with Overseer Thrixval, allowed herself a small smile. "And we can exploit this." "Absolutely," Dr. Wright interjected, joining Patel at the display. "We've identified 3 critical vulnerabilities. First, their neural implants, every Sarathian has them, operate on quantum entanglement principles. Second, their ship systems use similar technology for everything from life support to weapons. Third, they maintain a constant quantum link with their home systems, presumably for reporting and receiving orders. Most importantly," Patel continued, "all 3 systems are interconnected for efficiency. They never imagined they'd need security partitioning." Chen leaned forward. "So if we disrupt one system, we potentially disrupt them all." Wright finished. "But we need to be careful. A small disruption might just cause temporary malfunctions. We need something big enough to cascade through their entire network." General Zhao's eyes narrowed. "The HEPF." Patel nodded slowly. "The high-energy particle facility could be reconfigured to generate the kind of quantum disruption we need. But it would take time and resources, and we'd need to keep the Sarathians from realizing what we're doing." "I can help with that," said a new voice. Director Nadia Volkov of Global Intelligence strode into the room, tablet in hand. "My teams have been analyzing Sarathian behavior patterns. They're arrogant, methodical, and most importantly, they have difficulty distinguishing between human emotional states." "Meaning?" Chen prompted. "Meaning they can't tell the difference between fear and excitement, between submission and deception. They rely entirely on their technology and cultural analysis to interpret us." Volkov's lips curved into a rare smile. "We can use this." Over the next month, humanity executed a masterclass in misdirection. While publicly appearing to cooperate with Sarathian demands, a global underground resistance took shape. The high-energy particle facility, supposedly decommissioned at Sarathian request, was actually being enhanced around the clock. Scientists from every nation worked in shifts, reconfiguring the massive particle accelerator to generate precisely the kind of quantum chaos that Sarathian systems couldn't handle. Meanwhile, Overseer Thrixval grew increasingly pleased with how smoothly the Earth integration was proceeding. Resource extraction was exceeding quotas. Human representatives remained appropriately deferential. The periodic resistance incidents were minor and easily suppressed. "Your species adapts remarkably well," Thrixval commented to Admiral Chen during a mandatory progress assessment. The Cultural Analysis Division predicted much more resistance. Chen bowed her head in practiced humility. "We recognize superior force, Overseer. Humanity has always been practical." "Indeed. Your media broadcasts suggested a more rebellious nature." "Ah." Chen smiled apologetically. "Our entertainment often exaggerates human characteristics for dramatic effect. Reality is much more orderly." The Overseer's upper eyes narrowed slightly. "A curious distinction. Perhaps our analysis division should revise their methodologies." "Perhaps," Chen agreed. "Though I'm certain they did the best they could with the information available." What Thrixval didn't know was that during this very conversation, human operatives were infiltrating Sarathian mining sites worldwide, placing quantum sensing devices disguised as routine maintenance equipment. Each device silently mapped the exact quantum frequency patterns used by Sarathian technology, feeding data back to the HEPF team. "We're getting excellent readings," Patel reported that evening, her face illuminated by the glow of quantum field visualizations. "Their entire system operates on a remarkably narrow band of quantum frequencies, probably an efficiency adaptation from their stable home environment." "How soon can we be ready?" General Zhao asked. 2 more weeks, Wright answered. "We need full spectrum data, and we have to be precise. Too small a disruption, and they'll adapt. Too large, and we might affect our own systems." "We may not have 2 weeks," Director Volkov interjected, sliding a tablet across the table. "Our operatives intercepted this data packet from the mothership. They're accelerating the extraction schedule and bringing in reinforcements. Something's made them suspicious. Admiral Chen studied the intercepted data. How did they detect us? They didn't, Volkov replied. At least, not our counter-operation. But their resource surveys found something they weren't expecting. Look at the geological data. The team leaned in. The Sarathian scans had discovered massive deposits of rare minerals deep beneath Earth's surface, deposits humanity had never detected with current technology. They're calling it quantum-responsive ore, Wright murmured. These deposits could be why Earth has unusual quantum field characteristics compared to their home systems. And it makes us much more valuable than they initially thought. Chen concluded grimly. They're calling in a harvesting fleet. Arrival estimated in 10 days. The room fell silent until General Zhou spoke. Then we have 9 days to be ready. The next week was the most intensely coordinated scientific and military operation in human history. The HEPF was pushed to its limits as engineers worked around the clock. Quantum field disruptors were disguised and planted at every Sarathian installation globally. Military forces quietly repositioned under the guise of helping with Sarathian mining operations. Meanwhile, Admiral Chen played her most dangerous role, keeping Thrix-Val's suspicions at bay. The Overseer had begun demanding more extensive access to human governmental decisions and infrastructure. These new oversight measures are necessary for efficient integration. Thrix-Val insisted during what had become daily meetings. The hegemony has determined that human self-governance is inefficient. Of course, Overseer, Chen replied with practiced deference. We only ask for a brief adjustment period. Our systems were not designed with hegemony standards in mind. The Overseer's multiple eyes focused intently on Chen. Admiral, your continued requests for adjustment periods are becoming problematic. The additional harvesting fleet arriving tomorrow will expect full compliance. Tomorrow. Chen kept her expression neutral despite the alarm bells ringing in her mind. I thought the fleet was due in 3 days. Their transit was more efficient than anticipated. The Overseer's tone held a note of suspicion. This should be welcome news for Earth's integration. Of course, Chen bowed slightly. I'll inform the Planetary Council immediately. As soon as she left the Sarathian embassy, Chen activated her secure communicator. They're coming tomorrow. We need to move now. Dr. Patel's voice came through, tense but controlled. The HEPF isn't fully calibrated. We're at maybe 80% of optimal disruption potential. Will it be enough? A pause. It's going to have to be. Across the globe, humanity prepared for what might be its last stand as a free species. The plan was simple in concept, nearly impossible in execution. Generate a precisely modulated quantum field disruption that would cascade through the Sarathian network, temporarily disabling their technology without permanently destroying it, giving human forces just enough time to seize control of key installations. As midnight approached, Dr. Patel stood before the modified HEPF controls, her hand hovering over the activation sequence. Behind her, a joint team of scientists from 24 nations held their breath. On my mark, she said quietly. 3, 2, 1, mark. She pressed her palm against the scanner, and humanity launched its response to the Sarathian ultimatum. The quantum disruption wave was invisible to the naked eye, but its effects were immediately apparent. Across the planet, Sarathian energy fields flickered and died. Their communication systems emitted high-pitched whines before falling silent. Most dramatically, the massive mothership in orbit listed to one side as its stabilization systems failed. And in every Sarathian installation on Earth, aliens clutched at their heads as their neural implants experienced something they were never designed to handle: quantum chaos, hidden strengths. The view screen in the Emergency Command Center showed chaos erupting across every Sarathian installation worldwide. The aliens staggered, clutching at their heads where neural implants malfunctioned under the quantum disruption. Their advanced weapons systems powered down or fired randomly. The massive mothership drifted in orbit, its perfect position destabilized as positioning thrusters misfired in erratic bursts. Phase 1 successful, General Zhao announced, his normally stoic expression betraying a hint of satisfaction. All ground teams, execute containment protocols. Space Command, deploy countermeasures against any responsive orbital units. Admiral Chen watched as humanity's carefully hidden strengths were finally revealed. While pretending to comply with Sarathian demands over the past weeks, Earth's militaries had been secretly preparing. Now, specialized EMP-hardened vehicles surrounded alien installations, soldiers wearing quantum-shielded armor, developed by reverse engineering Sarathian technology, moved in to secure alien personnel. How long will the disruption last? Chen asked, turning to Patel and Wright. Theoretically, about 6 hours, Patel replied, her eyes fixed on quantum field readings. But that's just an estimate. They're technological geniuses. They might find ways to adapt more quickly. Then we work with 6 hours, Chen decided. What's the status of the priority capture targets? Director Volkov approached with a tablet displaying real-time intelligence feeds. Strike Team Alpha has secured the primary communication relay at the North American Command Center. Strike Team Delta has Overseer Thrixval contained at the embassy. The biological research samples are being secured from all 32 collection facilities. Wright nodded in approval. Those samples are crucial. The Sarathians were collecting human genetic material for a reason. We need to know what they were planning. On the main display, the situation in orbit looked increasingly chaotic. The mothership was attempting to restore its systems, with periodic energy surges indicating partial success followed by renewed failures. More concerning were the smaller attack vessels, some of which were managing to maintain limited functionality despite the quantum disruption. We've got movement, announced Space Command's liaison. 3 Sarathian fighters have restored enough propulsion to enter atmosphere. Trajectory indicates they're heading for the HEPF. They've figured out the source of the disruption, Chen concluded grimly. General, options. Zhao's response was immediate. Activate the orbital defense grid. This was humanity's greatest secret. While the Sarathians had been demanding compliance and beginning their resource extraction, Earth's space agencies had quietly repositioned satellites equipped with hastily manufactured weapons based on reverse-engineered alien technology. Nothing as advanced as Sarathian systems, but hopefully effective enough in the aliens' currently compromised state. The orbital defense satellites came online, targeting the descending fighters. Beams of concentrated energy, primitive by Sarathian standards, but deadly effective against compromised shields, struck 2 of the vessels. They tumbled from the sky, secondary explosions marking their fall into uninhabited ocean areas. But the 3rd fighter managed to evade the satellite network, its course still set directly for the HEPF. Scramble interceptors, Zhao ordered. Everything we've got. Fighter jets roared into the sky from hidden bases, another element of humanity's silent response. For weeks, pilots had been training on simulators programmed with every scrap of data collected about Sarathian flight capabilities and weaknesses. What followed was perhaps the most one-sided aerial battle in Earth's history, but not in the way anyone would have expected 6 weeks earlier. The Sarathian vessel, operating at perhaps 20% capacity, found itself surrounded by dozens of human fighters who had spent weeks preparing specifically for this moment. The alien craft managed to destroy 3 interceptors before concentrated fire overwhelmed its failing defenses. It spiraled toward the ground, crashing 10 kilometers from the HEPF facility. Target neutralized, reported the fighter commander. No survivors detected. In the command center, a moment of solemn acknowledgement for the pilots lost was followed by renewed focus. They were far from victory, merely in the opening phase of the most important battle in human history. We need to move to phase 2, Chen announced. Dr. Wright, what's the status of the neural interface system? Wright checked his tablet, which displayed progress reports from research teams worldwide. Ready for deployment. We've confirmed the translation matrices are functioning and compatible with Sarathian neural architecture. This was perhaps the most audacious part of humanity's plan. While studying captured Sarathian technology, researchers had discovered that their neural implants were designed for far more than mere communication. They were full interfaces capable of direct consciousness connection. This explained how the aliens controlled their advanced technology so seamlessly. More importantly, Earth scientists realized these systems could be modified to work with human neural patterns. The potential advantages were too significant to ignore, despite the ethical concerns. Initiate neural link with the primary target, Chen ordered. In a secure facility beneath the United Nations headquarters, Overseer Thrixval was held in a quantum-shielded chamber. The alien administrator had recovered enough from the disruption to sit upright, all four eyes blinking in patterns the human xenobiologists interpreted as a mixture of pain and rage. "Your resistance is futile," Thrixval stated, voice modulation systems creating the same harmonics as before, though notably strained. "The hegemony will respond to this insurrection with appropriate force." Dr. Sophia Reyes, lead xenoneurologist, approached with a device that resembled a medical scanner. "This won't hurt if you don't resist," she told the alien, her voice professionally detached. "What are you?" The overseer's question cut off as Reyes activated the device. It emitted a targeted field that interfaced with the alien's neural implant, bypassing its security protocols, now compromised by the quantum disruption, and establishing a connection with the waiting human systems. In the command center, screens flickered to life, displaying something extraordinary, a direct visual feed from the overseer's own neural network. Not just sensory data, but access to the vast knowledge base contained within the implant itself. "My God," Wright breathed. "It's working. We're accessing their entire command structure, tactical databases, everything." The information flow was overwhelming. Galactic maps showing hundreds of civilizations under hegemony control, technical specifications for weapon systems beyond human understanding, and most crucially, the true reason for the Sarathians' interest in Earth. "They weren't just after our resources," Paddle said, studying the data with growing alarm. "They were after us. Human adaptability to quantum field variations is unheard of in their experience. They were planning to use our genetic material to enhance their own species." "And the Harvester fleet?" Chen asked. Wright's expression darkened as he accessed that data stream. "It's not just coming to collect resources. It's coming to collect us." The hegemony authorized full bioharvesting of Earth's population. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Sarathians hadn't been offering protection in exchange for resources. They had been planning humanity's extinction all along, preserving only enough genetic material to serve their purposes. General Zhou broke the silence. "How large is this harvester fleet?" Wright navigated through the neural data. 17 capital ships, over 200 support vessels. Far more than we could handle, even in their compromised state. "Then we need to make sure they never arrive," Chen stated firmly. "What about the mothership's communication systems? Can we use them?" Patel's eyes widened as she caught Chen's implication. "You want to send a false message to the fleet. It could work, but we'd need to understand their communication protocols perfectly." "Which we now have through the neural link," Wright pointed out. "We could send a quarantine alert, make them think Earth is infected with something deadly to Sarathian biology. They'd still send surveillance," Volkov countered. "We need something more definitive." Chen studied the neural data stream, focusing on hegemony command protocols. "No, we need to use their own arrogance against them. We send a message from Overseer Thrixval, stating that Earth's resistance has been crushed, but that in the process, we deployed quantum weapons that make approach to the planet dangerous for Sarathian technology." "Would they believe that?" Zhao asked skeptically. According to this, Chen gestured to the hegemony tactical response protocols now displayed before them. "They've never encountered a species that could generate targeted quantum disruptions before. It would be a novel threat they have no established response for. Their protocols would require assessment from a safe distance before proceeding. Buying us time, Wright nodded slowly. Time to prepare a real defense. More than that, Chen's expression was resolute. Time to prepare a counterattack. As humanity's leaders debated strategy, something unexpected was happening in secure labs around the world. The scientists working with captured Sarathian technology were making breakthroughs at an unprecedented rate. The neural interface system was providing insights into quantum field manipulation that would have taken decades to discover independently. Most significantly, Dr. Anaya Patel's team at the HEPF had identified how the quantum-responsive ore beneath Earth's surface could be utilized. Far from being just a valuable resource, these mineral deposits actually amplified and stabilized quantum fields in ways the Sarathians had never encountered. "We can use Earth itself as a quantum weapon," Patel explained, her voice tight with excitement as she reported the discovery. "The ore deposits form a natural network throughout the planet's crust. If we can activate them in the right sequence, we could potentially generate a quantum field large enough to disable any Sarathian ship that approaches orbit. A planetary defense system," Wright marveled. "How quickly can we implement this?" "That's the thing," Patel replied. "The infrastructure is already there, naturally occurring. We just need to build activation nodes at key juncture points. With the knowledge from the Sarathian neural net, we could have a prototype ready in days, not months." Admiral Chen looked at the global map showing the ore deposit network, spanning every continent like a nervous system. "Begin immediately. Priority 1. For the first time since the massive alien vessel had appeared in Earth's orbit, Chen allowed herself to feel something beyond grim determination. Hope. The unexpected counterattack. 3 days after the quantum disruption event, Admiral Chen stood before the emergency United Nations Security Council, now expanded to include representatives from every nation on Earth. The atmosphere was tense, but energized with a sense of possibility that had been absent during the Sarathian occupation. "The false communication to the Harvester fleet was successful," Chen reported. "According to our monitoring of Sarathian channels, they've established a quarantine perimeter at the edge of our solar system. Our best estimate gives us 2 weeks before they complete their analysis and determine the deception. 2 weeks to prepare for an invasion force that outguns us by orders of magnitude," the Russian president stated bluntly. "Is that enough time?" Dr. Patel stepped forward, her usual lab coat replaced by a more formal suit for this critical meeting. "It has to be. The planetary quantum defense network is being activated in stages. The natural ore deposits are responding exactly as predicted, amplifying our quantum field generators beyond what we thought possible." Screens around the chamber displayed a global map with glowing points indicating activation nodes placed at strategic locations around the planet. These nodes connected to the deep ore deposits, creating a web of quantum energy that encompassed the entire Earth. "What about the Sarathians already in our custody?" asked the Chinese premier, particularly Overseer Thrixval. "What have we learned?" Dr. Wright took this question. "The neural interface has given us unprecedented access to hegemony knowledge. We now understand their social structure, military hierarchy, and most importantly, the limitations of their technology." "Limitations?" echoed several voices. "Yes," Wright continued. "The Sarathians have been the dominant species in their region of space for millennia. This has led to technological stagnation in certain areas, particularly how they handle unexpected variables. Their quantum technology is incredibly advanced, but narrowly specialized. They've never needed to develop systems resistant to the kind of chaotic fields we can generate." General Zhao, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. "What you're all dancing around is the obvious conclusion. We don't just have the capability to defend Earth, we have the capability to take the fight to them." A hush fell over the chamber. "You're suggesting a counterattack," the Secretary General said carefully. "Against a galactic hegemony with thousands of ships and hundreds of subjugated worlds." "Precisely," Zhao confirmed without hesitation. "We've analyzed their fleet deployments using the neural data. They maintain control through overwhelming force and psychological intimidation, not unlike how they approached Earth. But their actual military presence across their territory is surprisingly thin. Admiral Chen nodded in agreement. Most of their subject worlds are kept in line through fear and orbital weapons platforms, not ground forces. If those platforms were disabled, revolutions would erupt across the hegemony, finished Director Volkov, who had been analyzing the political structures of the alien empire. According to the data we've extracted, at least 37 species are under what amounts to slave conditions. They lack only the means to fight back. The implications hung in the air. What had begun as a desperate defense of Earth was transforming into something far more ambitious. "You're talking about galactic war," the British representative said quietly. "No," Chen corrected. "We're talking about galactic liberation." The debate raged for hours, but in the end, the decision was made. Operation Quantum Spark, humanity's counteroffensive against the Sarathian hegemony, was authorized. In facilities around the world, captured Sarathian ships were being studied and reverse-engineered. The mothership itself, now under human control, provided invaluable insights into faster-than-light travel technology. Using the neural interface data, human scientists were making modifications that the Sarathians had never considered. Adaptations that made the ships more resilient to quantum fluctuations. Meanwhile, Dr. Patel led the development of what would become humanity's signature weapon, quantum destabilization bombs. These devices, once deployed near Sarathian control nodes, would generate the same kind of disruption field that had disabled the mothership, but with greater intensity and duration. "The key is targeting their command and control systems," Patel explained during a briefing with military leaders. "Each sector of hegemony space is controlled through a central nexus that coordinates their quantum network. Disable those nexuses, and entire regions of their empire will be cut off from central authority." "How many of these nexuses exist?" General Zhao asked. 7, Wright replied, displaying a galactic map with the locations highlighted. "And the neural data has given us the exact coordinates and defense parameters for each one." The plan that emerged was audacious to the point of being nearly irrational, except that it was based on precise intelligence and exploited a fundamental weakness the Sarathians had never needed to address. Earth would strike at all 7 nexuses simultaneously, using modified Sarathian ships piloted by humans wearing neural interface adapters. Training for the mission was intense and dangerous. The neural interfaces, while modified for human use, still placed enormous strain on the human nervous system. Only certain individuals could tolerate the connection for extended periods, primarily those with natural resistance to quantum field effects, a trait that turned out to be surprisingly common in the human population. "Another reason they wanted our genetic material," Wright noted grimly. "This adaptability is unique in their experience." As Earth prepared its counterstrike, the harvester fleet at the edge of the solar system grew restless. Intercepted communications indicated increasing skepticism about the quarantine order. They would not wait much longer. The day of the operation arrived sooner than anyone wanted, but not a moment too soon. 7 modified Sarathian vessels, their hulls repainted with Earth insignia alongside the flags of 28 nations, prepared for departure from a hidden lunar base constructed in the weeks since the liberation of the mothership. Admiral Chen addressed the volunteer crews via holographic projection. Many wore the neural interface devices that would allow them to control the alien ships, sleek bands across their foreheads that pulsed with soft blue light. "What you undertake today will determine not just the future of Earth, but potentially the freedom of dozens of civilizations across our galaxy," Chen told them. The Sarathians believed we would submit to their extortion because they underestimated human determination. They believed their technology made them invincible because they've never encountered a species willing to adapt and innovate as rapidly as humans do under pressure. She paused, looking at each crew member's face. Today, the Sarathian hegemony learns exactly what they've awakened. Today, they learn